Broadcasting. So, okay, we're on the air. This is live, unrehearsed. Um, this is Gary. I'm conducting my very first disciple or ex-disciple interview with Anne Carlton. I interviewed myself, but this is the first real live and unrehearsed interview with a disciple. So, hi Anne.
Hi there, Gary. How are you?
I'm doing. I've been up all night. I drank coffee last night. You were with me at Carol's place, and that was so strong. I've been up all night. But anyway, I'm feeling pretty good. But we want to talk about not me. We want to talk about you, and we're going to keep the interview to about 15 minutes long, so it doesn't get goes on and gets boring. Uh, so I don't. Right now, my mind is blank. What we want to do with this project is have disciples come on and talk about their experience. So if you want to give a little background, this is what I did before I became a disciple. Keep it short. You can. Or if you just want to plunge into the disciple experience, I'll leave it up to you. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think this is so great and so important, and thank you for doing this. It's a great idea. I'm so glad this cup of coffee inspired you in a great way. Um, it was, for me, my particular background was that I had a difficult teenage family life. I had a bit of, rebelliousness, and I was pretty I guess I was angry a lot with my family, angry at not necessarily society, but pretty much had a lot of complaints about things. I guess all teenagers, you have some kind of feeling that things aren't quite as good as they could be, and you want it to be better. But I particularly had family problems. Grew up in a family which was a little bit rough, and so when I came in contact with the people of the center, they were so nice, and I felt really at home with them, very comfortable. And so I started. I first came into contact in one of their restaurants, and I started to work there. And I would read the books, and of course, I was fascinated by the people in the center. They seemed to have it so together, which was partly because they were adults, but it was also that I felt, that they had kind of a, a sense of calm about them and a sense of self-assuredness, and I became very interested in what this person who they were following, Sri Chinmoy, what it was all about.
So,
So,
oh yeah. So just give me the years of your discipleship. Like mine was 1970 to 1980. You came later. I didn't know you in the center.
okay, yeah, I joined a center in 1980. I started working for them in like 1977 or 78, and then I actually ended up going to a few concerts. I was very moved. Actually, a lot of disciples say they hate the S-Rush music. I love the S-Rush music. I was very inspired by it.
Hated it. Yeah.
I hated the piano, but the S-Rush I love. And I was very inspired by the concerts, and I saw David Dipp, Carlos Santana, and that was, along with John McLaughlin, that just blew my mind, and I was totally impressed and taken with the whole show. I really was.
I was too, and I mentioned that in my interview. Carlos Santana and John McLaughlin. We had so much going on, and interestingly enough, the year I left, I didn't realize this. You came on, so I was a disciple for 10 years. How many years were you a disciple?
Uh, of 20 years. I joined in January '81, and I left in August 2001.
So, what stands out for you as a disciple? What comes to your mind? But the first thing that came to my mind when I asked myself what stood out, a lot of good stuff, and then that whole Alo Devi debacle, I'll call it. So that was like my main thing that really, stuck in my mind. So describe a little bit about, whatever arises for you in terms of your 20-year stint in the center. That's twice as long as I spent.
Yeah. Well, the first several years I was working in a restaurant on Brahma, so I was exhausted most of the time. It was just exhausting. My belief was very strong. My meditations, I felt a lot of bliss in my meditations, and I feel like I was really looking inside my own heart. So I wasn't really carefully evaluating what maybe was going on with Guru or investigating him in any way. I wasn't looking with a really critical eye because I just suspended all my critical thinking while I got caught up in the flurry of all the disciples with all their projects and their celebrations and the wonderful meditations, and especially those donuts after meditation, all the sweets, the prasad. I love the prasad. I mean, I would just be in bliss. I would go to meditation and I would have the most wonderful meditation. I wouldn't be thinking about anything. No. I would just be happy and then have that prasad and feel great. And then the rest of the time I'd be working, and I'd be working and working until I got so burned out that I had to quit the restaurant. And then I thought I might even leave the center, but I didn't. But the restaurant thing was just soul-breaking, hard work for like 90 hours a week for just pittance money because I believed I was working for the cause, and just caught up in that and all my energy going to that. And so I really didn't question anything. And then after that, that was when I got, in the 90s, was lucky they helped me get a job and in an outside organization, which shall not be named, but we know what it is. We both know. And
who you covered the other day with Jerry Katz. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's not a problem. I don't want to make a big deal about it, but I am really grateful to the people in the center because they helped me get ready for employment. They helped me prepare for the test. They just helped me get my foot in the door there, and then I was able to get a good job, long-term job there. I've worked there for 24 years. So that I was grateful for from the center, a grateful outcome. In the early 90s, I started being groomed to become one of Guru's concubines, basically. And it was
one of his gopis. Like, in other words, the whole Krishna with the gopis thing, I think Chinmoy thought of himself like, hey, if it was good enough for Krishna, it'd be good enough for me. So, yeah, let's talk about the sex thing, because that's obviously the big hot button with a lot of people, both pro and con.
Yeah, pro and con. A lot of people believe that the sex thing was a blessing and that it's just that somebody like me is just ungrateful or doesn't understand Guru's motivations. But myself, looking back with a more open, critical eye, without trying to gloss things over, my situation was that I loved Guru as a father figure. I did not have any sexual arousal toward him. I never did. Maybe I might have, if I had a vital problem, I might have been attracted to this boy or that boy. I left the center for a while to be married, but that came a little bit later. But the main thing was that the center, my position was that I revered him. I felt that he was at a distance. I never anticipated intimacy with him. When he started to approach me, he called me on the phone. He had one of the girls call me up and arrange the call. And then he had me flown to another state, out to California, for a concert. And I had never been treated like this in my life as a disciple. I'd always been one of the people who was kind of in the background, quiet, never feeling that I was a close disciple. All of a sudden, I'm getting a free plane ride to California. I'm getting met at the airport by a group of beautiful women, close disciples. And they're giving me all kinds of attention. They're buttering me up. All of them were involved in this. These women were all involved. It wasn't just Guru. There was a whole group of women who were part of the scheme. And they brought me. He put me in a room with one of the close disciples who was already an internal part of the group. And that happened at a different time. The first time. My roommate was not someone who knew anything about it. She was she was another quiet person like myself. And then we had the concert. I had a great meditation. After the concert, a woman comes up to me, who's the leader of the center over there, and she hands me a little piece of paper, and she says, "Guru wants you to come to his room." And so I went up to the room, and I was so nervous. And then when I realized what was going on, I was so nervous I had to take a crap. And I had to go back to I said, Guru, I have to go back to my room because I was just so nervous. And then I went back there and I was just shaking. I was, because I was in such a state of suspended critical thinking, I just didn't know what, I was just blown away. I was so shocked. And then after it was over, he gave me $1,500. And
wow.
yeah, that was just to help pay for my expenses or whatever. But I felt so just suspended. I just was in shock. I didn't know what to think. I didn't believe what he told me, that I was like the only one and that I should never tell anyone. And it was just like keep it all in. But the main thing is, I've written my testimonial exactly what happened. But it was the main thing that came out of it was that I was completely numb and shocked, and it was not something that I looked forward to, but I just continued to engage in it whenever it happened because I was obedient. At that time, I believed in obedience.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're an innocent disciple. You don't know what's going on. You go to the hotel room. So how did he bring it up that that he wanted to have sex with you? How did he come on or present
Well, he started out by having me sit in front of him and meditate, and then he was like saying, "Are you surrendered?" And I was like, and he said, "Express your surrender." And I had my hands folded, and I said, "Supreme, I bow to thee." And then he was like, "Oh, are you really surrendered?" And then he said, "Take your clothes off." So then I knew what was going to happen.
Uh-oh.
Then he wanted me to, engage in, and he just showed me with his hands what he wanted me to do. But I mean, he sort of like, it's been a long time now, so I'm trying to remember exactly, I don't really want to go back there.
It was in the 1990s.
Yeah, this was like 1991.
Okay.
So that's how I knew what was going to happen. It was very quick. He hardly was really aroused, but it was just like, I don't know, it was just weird. The whole experience was bizarre and unexpected and very not something I would have ever fantasized about. I never ever fantasized about sex with him. I never did. My feeling toward him was pure, like just completely pure, and I never, even after we started engaging in those things, then he said to me, "Oh, I want you to feel that I'm always inside you." So like to always be conjuring up sexual images inside me. But
well, he didn't mean spiritually, because we used to practice that. Oh, Guru's in my heart, Guru's in my heart, blah blah blah. No, sex thing.
Yeah, he wanted women to engage all their vital energy toward him. And I'm sure some people would justify that and say, oh, it's a psychic thing, or it's a tantric thing, or who knows. But now that I look back, he never really believed himself. He was always acting. It was always a mask on his face. Now when I look back and I have images of him in my mind, what I see is a mask. I don't see a person acting genuinely or with real, it's a power trip, and it's a mask, and underneath it, a power trip. And that's what I really honestly feel about that experience. And I continued on in the center for many years, and at some point, as I've said other places, other times, there was other situations where he asked me to be involved with women, and he was kind of voyeuristic, and those things were really, really hard for me, because at one point there was one woman who came along who was kind of very much wanted to be in my life. She wanted to take over my life, and I don't know, tell me what to eat, how to act. She was just very controlling.
Do you think that this woman wanted to do that on her own, or was she following instructions from Guru?
I think she was following instructions, and I think that it was probably a way to try to get more control over me to do things. Maybe my weight was a little high, which it still is. But they wanted to control me more that way, um, and I don't know where it would have gone, but it made me very depressed because it was like I had no freedom at all. I mean, to begin with, in the center, there's very little freedom,
Wait,
but
did
it
you
was
live with this woman?
no, I never lived with her. She was involved with me not for a fairly brief time, but I was very uncomfortable with her sexually. I didn't enjoy it that much, and I was very uncomfortable with how much she was getting involved in my life because I was used to being alone as a disciple, living alone, and never having, and I would not, I wasn't a person who hung out with people a lot or had a lot of friends, and I just didn't like her constant presence.
I
Like
have a question about. I have a question about her. I know who she is. We're not going to name names, but I know she was
no,
married.
but
She
it's
was
not. It
very,
may not be the one you're thinking of. Her initials is A. It's not S. It's A. There were three women who I was involved with. One was G, one was S, and one was A.
I'm
So
talking
this was
about A. I'm talking about A. I know A because she was there when I was a disciple, and
yeah.
she was married, and she was acting as if she was a totally heterosexual, normal woman. But you think this was just like an act because she was wanted to follow orders, or was she genuinely
No,
sexual?
she was following orders. I felt
Okay.
sure that she was
I thought
following
I
orders.
thought so. I thought so. Okay.
That was my
Wow.
feeling.
A mind-blowing story. Anyway. Okay.
So
I want to keep the interview succinct. So we have about 9 minutes left. Uh, so okay. So describe then how did you what happened with the whole sex thing, and then you left because of that. I would imagine.
what happened with me was that I was going through inner turmoil because this was very hard for me. I wasn't what I felt in that time. My mental space was that I was not able to surrender to it. So it was making me very depressed. I felt numb inside. And this numbness just all of a sudden I was doing a lot of internal searching. I was having really good meditations. I was starting to feel that I had more control over my destiny and my path. And I basically went to the beach one day and I had like a meditation on the ocean, and I just felt this overwhelming urge that I have to leave. And I just also had at the same time this inner confidence or this inner message from my inner self that it would be okay and it was safe and it was okay to leave. And that's when I decided to leave. So shortly after that, I told one of my friends that I was going to leave. She was not one of the women I was engaged with sexually. She was a real friend, and I just wanted to say goodbye to her. And she told Guru. And then what happened at that point was that Guru had sent one of the girls who I had been intimate with, G, over to my house and had her standing outside my door crying and telling me I shouldn't leave and that I have to go see Guru one more time before I leave and I have to go to the house. And so I agreed to go over to the house. And that's when I was upstairs with Guru and sitting in front of him, and I had one of these outfits, not a sari, but it was a Punjabi outfit with a scarf. And he was sitting in front of me, and up to this point in the conversation, it was all like, I'm sorry, I'm leaving, and everything. And then he reached down, and he took the scarf, and he tied it in a knot, and he started stretching it like this. And he just looked so maniacal, and it was like coming around my neck, and it was really it was uncomfortable. It wasn't like tight, but it was like just to the point where you could see he could tighten it. And it was really uncomfortable. And he said, I'm a very strong man. And he looked at me like this, and I was crying. And he said, I don't know how it happened, what he said, like, you won't leave the center or something like that. And I said, okay, I won't leave the center. And so then I left the house, and I was really scared. And I was completely in suspension of any, like, I just could not reconcile what had just happened with what was my vision or my understanding, my reality, my perception of what Guru was. I just felt completely suspended. I didn't I couldn't even acknowledge that he threatened me, but I just felt really broken inside. I just felt completely broken up and shocked.
Wow.
And so what I did was I stayed on. There was a couple times I went to the house and I brought him prasad. I brought prasad to the house, and I everything was special. And in fact, it was eggnog. I made homemade eggnog and brought it to the center because it was one of my favorite things and one of Guru's favorite things. And and then shortly after that, there was a disciple who also, like a spy, had me come over to her house, and she said, so do you have faith in Guru? And I said, no, I'm losing faith. And then he called me, and he had a long talk with me, and basically he wasn't even claiming to be a guru anymore. He was basically, I can't even remember the conversation now, but I wrote down a lot of the details in my testimonial, but I don't want to go into the whole thing. But basically he wasn't saying that he was a guru. He was basically, he was basically giving me excuses for why he started the center.
Well, here he is. As far as we knew, as the disciples, that he was the not only what they call a fully realized soul. He was an avatar, greater than Jesus, greater than Buddha, according to him, and even the final Kalki avatar. And now he's telling you now he's coming on like a regular guy, like I'm not really a guru.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm remembering the scenario, the sequence of events better. After I had decided not to leave the first time, then he lifted me, and then we had this phone call thing, and then it was after that I brought the prasad, because the phone call was where he told me that he used to have to send things to the mother, and he needed money, and he didn't have any money. And he was explaining
the mother of the Aurobindo ashram.
Right. He was explaining to me why he had to become a guru, because he said he couldn't make enough money in the Indian mission where he's working to send money to the guru.
He admitted that.
That's what he admitted to me. And he was basically open with me the only time in my life. But wow. I still wasn't really getting it because my brain was so like on a one track that I just didn't. It took me years to understand what he actually said to me in that call, because it's like he was being open with me, but my mind wasn't ready to understand it yet. But it was after the phone call that we talked about the mother and the things he had to send for the mother, and eggnog, and we talked about eggnog and other things that he would have to send. And so that's when I brought the prasad. I brought the homemade eggnog, and wow. I guess it must have been canned eggnog that he sent to her. But he said it was so expensive to send stuff to her. So it was then it was shortly after that I realized I definitely had to leave. I didn't tell anyone. I packed all my things into my car at 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow. I had the movers come in. My landlady had to meet the movers the next day. I ran from the center. I literally had to run home with my tail between my legs back to my family, who I had been holding this sense of kind of moral superiority over my family because I was a disciple and they didn't understand and they were wrong. Now I go back and I'm the one who's wrong, and I'm the one who's been so stupid for so many years, and it was a life-shattering experience. I mean, I was shattered, and I had to move in with my family, and I was so uncomfortable. Everything was bad. And it was really tough, really, really tough.
Oh, well, listen, Anne, thank you. I don't want to. I want to keep all these interviews within 15 minutes. So yeah. I want to wrap it up. Final thoughts.
That, when you close off your own critical thinking as a spiritual seeker, you tend to want to close off your own critical thinking, because being critical it's like being mean or vindictive. It's like you're not being spiritual. It's not spiritual to be a critical thinker, but you have to keep that awareness open and allow it spiritually. Spiritual discernment is so important in the spiritual path, and it's one thing Guru never even mentioned or brought up, but spiritual discernment. And it's not about outwardly challenging someone and just telling them where to go or anything. It can just be, okay, this shit is not for me. That guy Carlos Santana said it perfectly. This shit is not for me. And I'm so grateful that I am so grateful, not only that I got away from the center, but that I moved on in my life in such a open and wonderful way, and how my life has blossomed, and my whole mind has blossomed, my whole being has blossomed.
Beautiful.
Being changed to the thoughts and paradigms and beliefs and stories and mythical stuff that I had before. And I'm just really grateful that I'm able to let it all go. That is my thing. Total gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
And, let's end it on the note of gratitude, because I'll tell you, I feel I didn't have your experience at all, obviously, and I didn't even know anything and there was stuff going on when I was there in 1970 to 80, but I didn't know about it until later on. But gratitude for the experience, and you've had a tremendous journey. I want to just a little disclaimer here. Ann and I are married. We've been married for a few years, but even some of the stuff that was revealed today, I didn't know. I never pumped you for information or anything. You said whatever you said. I had no qualms or issues. I believed your original as Phulela. You wrote your testimony. It's on the internet. But anyway, I'm grateful. Everything worked out the way it is.
Yeah, I am too. And thank you for this opportunity, Gary, because I'm just like, I feel it's so important to get the message out, and whatever people are doing, whatever they're doing in their lives, don't totally discount your own needs, your own self, your own God, your own inner.
That's where the guru. That's where the guru is. It's not in some guy or some woman or anybody sitting up there with folded hands on some throne. It's within, and we have to go through these experiences to get to that place where we say, okay, finally I got it.
Yeah.
The guru is within me, and I'm so grateful to be in that place. I can't tell you. I'm grateful every day. Grateful, and I'm grateful that you and I got together. It's been a beautiful part of the journey too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been great. All right, Gary.
Okay.
Oh, no.
All love. All love. All joy. All joy. All right. I'm going to end it here.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Hey, listen, I'll see you later. We're going to go to lunch today.
Okay, see you later. How do I turn this thing off?
I'll see you in 2 seconds.